on Record Sport Online today. And it regards Robbie Keane. According to reports online today, apparently he's held secret talks potentially over the Celtic job. This is according to you're talking about it.
These secret talks are Scott Brown was in Budapest for his pro license and decided to meet his old teammate for a coffee.
That's it.
And basically, Robbie Keane will be Celtic manager, Scott Brown's his assistant. That's it. Also,
this is coming from former Hearts boss Csaba Laszlo. He claimed that Robbie Keane met with Scott Brown last week, and as you say, was it Budapest, Scott? Doing his coaching license. Look,
Csaba Laszlo would have been a much longer answer than that.
Exactly.
Good point. But Robbie Keane to Celtic, and I've already seen the comments coming in. Celtic fans just aren't having him. I can't see it. I really can't see him being Celtic manager. And I wanted to get your take, Scott. Again, going back to Askou, because Michael Gannon on the show the other night, I kind of asked him if that win at Ibrox was Askew's audition potentially for the Celtic job. And Mick said, it was great in that, but he says he'll be a sitting duck if he goes into Celtic just now because of the lack of structure around. Do you see it that way, or?
I tell you what, if he gets offered the job, it'd be hard to turn down, Daniel. I mean, as I've said earlier on, I expect him to have a load of offers. I'd be amazed if clubs in England and Europe haven't taken note of what Askew's done at Motherwell and asked the question in the summer. But are any of them going to be as big as Celtic? So he would have a major decision to make. And he strikes me as the kind of guy that would believe. I mean, I don't doubt he would want things to be right behind the scenes, but strikes me as a guy that would believe he could go in and fix it. Whatever needed fixed, he would try and sort it. So I think he'll still be high in Celtic's kind of list of potential managers. And as you say, he done himself no favours at the weekend with that performance at Ibrox. The Robbie Keane one's interesting. I think Robbie Keane's got to be a contender. I know a lot of Celtic fans, without getting all political, a lot of them don't like the Israel thing. He went to manage Israel.
Sorry to jump in, Scott, because I was just going to say, Rebel says, no thanks, Robbie. Green Machine points out Alex Neil. David Bradley says, Robbie won't handle the pressure at Celtic. I was just going to jump in there, Scott, and ask the Celtic fans, is it purely because he worked in Israel that there's such kind of vitriol towards the suggestion he could be Celtic manager? He's done well at Ferencváros. Looks like a really good up-and-coming coach. I don't know. Is it just Israel thing? Because every time it gets brought up, certainly here, there's a flood of fans not having him.
It seems to be. I mean, it was first kind of mentioned around about the time Rangers played Ferencváros. I remember we went over there and asked Robbie Keane about it, but the reaction for Celtic fans was largely negative, and I think it was all pointing towards the Israel thing. That seems to have kind of died down a wee bit, I think, recently. Maybe fans are kind of coming round to the idea, but I just think there's the Irish connection. He's played at the club. He knows the demands, the expectations. I think I'm right in saying he's got a kind of relationship with Dermot Desmond. Certainly know each other. Desmond will undoubtedly be kind of keeping an eye on what he's done at Ferencváros. He's a young up and coming coach. Obviously, brilliant experience as a player, top level player. I think he's actually got Stephen Glass as his assistant. It'd be interesting if they came to Celtic, but I think he's definitely a contender. Listen, if the noise around it becomes too much, then it might see him no get at Celtic. I'll obviously try and get a gauge of that, try and get a feel for that when the speculation no doubt starts as soon as the season finishes. But I think it has to be a contender in terms of what Celtic are looking for. He ticks a lot of boxes. Done a brilliant job at Ferencváros by all accounts. To say they beat Rangers in that European game, obviously I'm talking about. So done a really good job. Why would you not consider him? And look, the same goes for Askou. I mean, for different reasons. Obviously, he doesn't have that connection, but as I said right at the start of the show, I mean, for the job Askew's done this season with that Motherwell squad, and the standard of football that they're playing, you'd be mad not to look at them, consider them, talk to them, ask the question, because I think Askou getting in and working with a better group of players is, let's be honest, he's going to get at Celtic. Being able to bring one or two in himself. Scary, the kind of football. I mean, Celtic fans obviously loved Brendan Rodgers kind of brand of football. They especially loved Ange Postecoglou, obviously, when he came in. Can you imagine a Celtic team playing, going to Ibrox and putting in that kind of performance? Being 2, 3, 4 up at half time, passing Rangers off the pitch. I think if he can do that with these Motherwell players, you give him a better squad, stronger squad. The sky's the limit for him, you would think. So he'll definitely be in the conversation.
Ross Marty says, surely Mike Nicholson's analytics will find the right guy. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. But a lot of people in the comments, Rebel was one a minute ago saying it's just about experience, which is why they don't want Robbie Keane. I nearly said Robbie Williams there. He wouldn't be up for the job either. But
let me entertain you, Celtic fans.
What I'm coming to is that I think Celtic this summer, after Wilfred Nancy, I could see them going for a really experienced guy. Not necessarily him, but maybe a Steve Clarke, someone of that age. I know Askew's had a year in Scottish football. I don't know if that changes things for him, but I can't see Celtic giving it to a potentially young, relatively unexperienced manager again like Nancy. I think they'll go the completely other way.
I'm not sure. I suppose it depends where they're coming from. I mean, they've got the most experienced guy they could possibly get right now, so anyone's going to be a younger guy in comparison. But Steve Clarke, I think he would. It depends what sort of profile they want and what they're looking for, because you see these lists come out and candidates come out, and they're all completely different types of managers. And Steve Clarke is probably about as different as you can get from Jens Berthel Askou. I'm not sure experience would come into it. I think maybe your style of play, where you've worked before, not necessarily for how long, because I think on paper would be right in saying Robbie Keane probably technically a bit more experienced as a manager than Jens Berthel Askou. There certainly won't be much in it. So I'm not sure Robbie Keane's lack of experience is all that valid. Even British football rather than just Scottish football, whereas if it's probably a bit more familiar with it than Askou was when he arrived. So I'm not sure I'd say it'd be experience that's counting Keane out.
Now that I'm thinking of that, I probably didn't word that very well. But what I'm trying to say, Scott, is I just don't think the Celtic board will want to take any sort of risk. I get every manager risk, but you know what I mean. I think Nancy, they said, I like his profile, let's see. They won't do something like that again.
No, you wouldn't think so, but I don't think Dermot Desmond really going to be swayed that much by the Nancy failure. I think Dermot Desmond will do what he wants to do, basically. So the Steve Clarke thing. Listen, Steve Clarke's obviously done a brilliant job with Scotland, and I think he'd be a good Celtic manager. He'd get success. Probably, but Ross mentioned the style there. I just think the style of football, Steve Clarke, Celtic fans, I don't know if they'd buy into that. It's a bit like when Davy Moyes was mentioned a few times in the past. I don't think Celtic fans were really that enamoured, and it was just down to the style of play. Look, we know Celtic fans like to be excited, entertained. They like a specific kind of brand of football. Obviously, they want to win. But they want to win it in a specific way. That's why they loved Rodgers and Postecoglou, to name two recent ones. So that's why I think Askou should definitely be in the conversation. I mean, I'm not sure about how exactly what kind of Robbie Keane's style is or what his idea is, but certainly, when we watched them against Rangers, they played really well. It was attacking, front foot, possession based football. So I don't think it'd be too different to what Celtic fans are looking for. So it's going to be interesting. As Ross says, it depends